Welcome to the Noizze Podcast, sponsored by the Satanic Tea Company and brought to you as part of the Noizze Podcast Network. My name's Will. What you're about to hear is the latest episode in our Albums of the Year series, where I chat to, in this episode, Ben Hutcherson of the incredible doom band Khemmis. If you're not familiar, please go check them out. Also speaking to melodic death and kind of melodic death metal, also very doomy. Fires in the Distance. I'm speaking to Yegor from the band. They've just put out this year an incredible new record, Air Not Meant For Us, through Prosthetic Records. Again, massive recommend. And rounding out a trio of extremity, we've got Nathan, who is with the UK-based Burner, a death metal and hardcore hybrid. Again, put out one of my favorite extreme metal records this year. But what you can do to keep up with what we're up to, make sure to follow us on Twitter at Noizze Podcast and Instagram at Noizze Podcast Network. The main site can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Noizze UK. Drop us a like, subscribe on YouTube, give us a listen wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, wherever it might be. If you do fancy checking out our Spotify Essentials playlist, or even if you want to buy us some merch, links are in our bio. If you're feeling extra kind, you can even drop us a review on your platform of choice. You all helps more than you'd think. Hope you enjoy the episode. Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me. So this evening I'm joined by Ben from the incredible Khemmis. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderfully, my friend. Thank you for asking. It's great to be here, and it's great to be talking about the best music of the year, because there was a lot of good music this year.
There really was. I kind of, put out my own like personal list earlier on today. I love going through everyone's lists and just being like, "Oh, you liked that more than I did," or "I liked that less than you did. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
missing something," or "I have no idea who that is and you clearly loved it. I need to go listen. Maybe I've missed
that's
something."
my favorite one. Is
That's
is
the
coming
best
across
one.
stuff that's like totally off the radar, and it's like, especially when it's coming from perhaps a writer or someone that I just don't know very well. So, if I'm not familiar with their tastes or their use of language, I'm trying to parse that. I'm like, wow, they're the way they're describing this, like, I don't know what to expect. Let's find out. And, sometimes it is a bit of a letdown, and then sometimes it just, I feel like the guy in the old RCA ad, in front of the big TV, and the hair's blown back and the skin's being pulled back by the sheer force of it because you're getting your face melted off.
Yeah, no, I absolutely get that. So we'll start, as we mentioned, with kind of like the big one, if you like, which is your favorite album to come out in 2023.
Well, this might seem like a cop out, but I don't have one. And it's
Happy to
because
discuss a couple of picks. Yeah.
it that and it's not that there haven't been incredible albums. It's that I've found so many records this year that I have enjoyed so much that I feel like trying to pick one feels like a parent trying to pick their favorite kid. Um, and I've got different favorite ones for different moods or depending on what I'm doing. Um, but so there were quite a few that spoke to me, but some of my favorites include the release from Blood Abscission, which is a black metal band that no one seems to know much about. They just sort of showed up, dropped this release earlier this year, and it is fantastic. Every song on it is just Roman numeral 1 through 5.
Nice.
Like, that's it. No one knows who they are or where they're from or anything. And like, some people really get off on that kind of mystery. For me, that's fine. It's all about the music, and the music is absolutely just transcendent. I'm a sucker for big, like grand, at times almost uplifting, but also very sorrowful black metal. And there is a feeling that I get when that kind of riff comes on, where the hair on the back of my neck just stands up, and no other kind of music does that for me. It's specific kinds of black metal, and in that same vein, the most recent Panopticon record, The Rime of Memory, absolutely brilliant record. For people that don't know Panopticon, it is a one-person project done by Austin Lunn here in the U.S. Austin is a dear friend of mine, which makes me a little bit less than objective, but also if it wasn't great, I just wouldn't include it as one of my top releases of the year. But it's so good, and it is absolutely the kind of album that you can really get lost in, and that really, I think, channels the vibe of the place. Austin lives in very sort of remote almost like desolate northern Minnesota. Like it's very like there's nothing there, right? It's just
Mhm.
cold, frigid, but beautiful. And like that's the vibe of
That's
that
his
record.
music. I actually had that on. It finished about 10 minutes before we started talking. So I've just had it on today because I first, I think it was Kentucky that I first sort of discovered them on.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the first record or it was around Kentucky Roads to the North that I first discovered Panopticon and just went, I love this. You know, the melding of like some of the bluegrass elements, the way that
Hmm.
he incorporated black metal into that was just so good. So I've had Rhyme of Memory on my you should listen to this list for so long. And then today I got my time and I
Yes.
was like, oh, just over like an hour and a quarter. Great. I've got an hour and a half, you know.
Yeah.
So I put the record on and agree, like absolutely incredible.
It's so good. I mean, like literally every year he puts an album out that album winds up being one of my top releases of the year. You know, Austin just has a knack for hitting the spot for me with the riffs and the composition, and also just the fact that he does everything just blows
Yeah.
my mind. As someone who can play guitar, who can play bass, but isn't a bass player, and if you put me on a set of drums, it's a nightmare. I don't have that kind of coordination, and so for him to be able to do all of those things so wonderfully and create this music, just blows the mind.
Yeah.
Um,
No, absolutely.
a
I'll
couple of
have to
other
check
quick
out the Blood
ones.
Obsession one too.
Oh, it's so it's a very, how can I say this? Just because someone's a fan of black metal doesn't inherently mean they'll be a fan of this. But if you
For sure.
like melodic black metal, I mean, like there are like some synths or keys, but it's like very buried in there. It's not like Dimmu Borgir level like symphonic stuff. Um, and it's lo-fi without sounding like it was recorded in somebody's garage. It's just it strikes a really pleasant balance. Um, um, a couple other ones that have stood out to me this year. One from your side of the pond, the folks in Wallowing,
Oh,
Earth
yeah.
Reaper. That that record, holy crap! I mean, holy crap!
Yeah, that's a really, really special record. Like the sludgy, like like black metal elements. I saw them open for Frozen Soul earlier in the
Oh,
year.
nice,
And they played like in a 30-minute set, they played that title track, that 20-minute title track. And
nice.
it's just like they are, and by all accounts, they're absolutely lovely guys as well. And they seem
Mhm.
it. But yeah, they really, really incredible record.
It's a lot of these records are ones that I might well, Panopticon I would have known about, but like the Blood Obsession, the Wallowing one, are records that might have flown under the radar for me. Um, I started streaming on Twitch last year, and one of the things that I do every week is on Thursday, we do New Music Thursday, where I bring in some stuff that I've been wanting to check out, but people that watch the stream regularly, they put recommendations in Discord, and for about 3 hours every Thursday, we listen to the newest metal releases, and we get people from all over the world recommending things. So, which certainly helps, like we can get in a very like American centric, frame of reference when it comes to finding new music. And, honestly, like Blood Obsession was one that I might have come across at some point, but there's a regular in the chat. What's up? Shout out to Chuffs. Um, another lovely Brit who brings in black metal recommendations week after week that are always phenomenal. Um, Wallowing, I had never even heard of, and like 30 seconds into the first song, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is my jam. I'm loving
Mm.
it." Um, one
I
other
think
one that I think stands out that's worth mentioning, sort of doing these in pairs, sort of like in the same vein ish as Wallowing from America, is this band called Melancholia. They are a two-piece from Bellingham, Washington, and it sort of has like a Black Cobra meets early Swarm of the Lotus. Like it's very abrasive, but the sound is very full especially for just being a two piece. It's a very full sound either way. I gotta see what the name of the record is. Book of Ruination.
okay.
Um, it's so good, and it's again, it's the kind of thing that strikes such a wonderful balance between there are so many bands that do abrasive, sludgy stuff well, but that's the one note they hit over and over. But it's when you start to bring in just a little bit of melody and you bring in, some degree of dynamic variation. You don't have to have a ballad on the record, but just like a few moments of clean guitar or like crunch guitar here and there, moments where things breathe, so that I can really appreciate those huge, oppressive, gnarly riffs. And Melancholia does it really, really well.
Amazing. That's again. So I'm kind of like 2 for 4, like 50% of them, like Panopticon and Wallowing, have both been like on my radar. But Melancholia, definitely, that sounds really interesting. I love, like you say, when a band gives you that moment to breathe, and then drops it again, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we're going back to the really nasty stuff, like the really heavy, gnarly.
Yes. I feel like in the world of slow and low, a lot of bands go one way or the other too far for me, where it's either everything's at 10 all the time and you just sort of get numb to it, or they get more into that atmospheric, whatever, like post metally side of things, and it feels like it's always building up to something, but I never get that sense of release. I never get the big moment. And when you find those bands that strike that kind of balance well, that resonates for you, and of course all of this is subjective, some people might find one end of that spectrum or the other to be much more their style, but for me there has to be that building of tension and release, and there has to be a little melody to highlight, the discordant sounds of hell that are being summoned. I mean, it's like putting a little chili powder in your cocoa, like a little bit of contrast goes a long way. But if you
Yeah.
overdo it, now you got weird spicy cocoa, and that's not good for anybody.
No, absolutely. Yeah, really. It's also what kind of why I love post metal. It's kind of, you've always got the build and release is done really well for the most part. Um, Amazing. So we'll move from the album of the year, or the albums. Talk a little bit about. So I always like to kind of, obviously, being in the industry and being in the scene, it's like seeing what's coming, what's coming up, who's new, who's doing something really exciting. And that's one of my favorite things, is, as we said before, discovering that new band that you like, whether they're doing something new or not, but they're doing it really cool, really, really, really well.
Yeah.
So what I've sort of, my question for you would be is like, who's a band that you're really excited for in 2024, whether that be a band you think deserves just tons more listeners because they're kind of undersung, or are kind of on the cusp of something really big for next year?
Um, well, one answer I could give would be my other band, Glacial Tomb. That Dave, who plays bass in Khemmis, he and I play in a death metal band called Glacial Tomb, and we have a new album that's going to be coming out in the spring. It's our first album since 2018. And I know it seems like shameless self promotion, but I'm excited just because as Chemist gets to the end of this album cycle and we start working towards, writing a new album and everything, I often find that the absence of being able to tour and go out and play shows and see my other friends that are in other bands um, can sometimes be kind of hard when I've spent the last few years on the road, and I've gotten sort of reacclimated to that, especially after almost 3 years of no touring.
Yeah.
So I am personally very excited about that. I I love when people who know chemists hear Glacial Tomb for the first time, because they're always like, just it's like that meme of the lady doing math. They're just trying to put it together. They're like, wait, but this thing that I like, and there's wizards on the cover, and then this just sounds like the earth opening up and swallowing me. I get a real kick out of that. Um, so, shameless self promotion aside, one of the things I am most excited about for next year is the new Spectral Voice record. Uh, Resident Denver homies, three of the four of which are also in Blood Incantation. They actually just dropped the lead single for the new album today, and it comes out in February on Dark Descent. Um, I'm really excited about that. Spectral Voice doesn't play out a whole lot. They very much embody the sort of like cavernous subterranean ethos that you sort of get from listening to their music. Like they sort of, live in the cave and then crawl out a couple times a year, or maybe once a year, or something like that. And I got to see them. They played the True Brewing anniversary here in Denver a few months back. It was their first Denver show in many years. It was their first show in a couple years, and that just got me so pumped to hear that album top to bottom. One other thing that I'm really excited about for next year uh, is the new Black Curse record. Black Curse. I know this sounds like such like a circle jerk because Black Curse, of course, has Zach from Khemmis playing drums, but much like Glacial Tomb is not the sound of Khemmis. I mean, Black Curse is even further away. It's him, John from Primitive Man, Eli from Spectral Voice, and they just got, I can't remember what the guy's name is. Um, uh, the guitar player from Spirit Possession, his name escapes me at the moment, is playing bass for him now. Their new album will come out at some point, I don't know, probably like late spring, and it is fantastic. It is unsettling. It is heavy, but it will make you feel bad. It
Hmm.
not like just like I think Chemist can make you feel bad in like that sad self-reflective way. Black Curse will make you feel bad like you have literally sold your soul to the devil and you're being torn apart. Uh
Yeah.
it's I am so excited for people to hear that record because I think the first record was incredible. I love that record. This thing is a whole new other beast. It's just next level in every possible way, and I think it's gonna really get people excited, and it's gonna remind people that they Denver's number one. You know, like we just keep cranking it out.
Yeah, it's some really, so it's not stuff that I'm necessarily familiar with, because I think, as you mentioned before, we can kind of get caught in the place where we're only seeing what's in our scene. So this is definitely
Yeah,
stuff that I'm going to keep an eye out for coming into next year. Because obviously a lot of what I'm aware of is UK based. Because a lot of that sounds really interesting, and like a really good unsettling record is something really special. I don't know if you managed to check out. I think it was Full of Hell and Primitive Man put out their
yeah.
collab record, and that made me feel so uneasy and quite
Yes.
unwell. Like,
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that the visceral experience of listening to music is something that often gets left out when we talk about music. Like we like, oh, I like it. Oh, it sucks. Oh, it's heavy. Oh, it's not. But like that doesn't tell you anything. Like what does heavy
hmm,
even mean anymore? The term itself is so diluted. And for me, when I think about something being truly heavy, it moves me from deep inside. It can be heavy in the sense of like Yob. Yob is heavy in that emotional, spiritual way where it feels like a cathartic, transcendent experience to engage with them either live or on the record. But at the same time, something that's gnarly and oppressive can also be that kind of visceral bodily heavy because it makes you feel like your skin is crawling. It makes it feel like your musculature is pulling away from your bones. Like what other kind of art produces that kind of experience, you know?
yeah, we listened to some
And when you
absolutely horrible music, but for a good reason.
That's I think that's the little clip for social media. We listen to horrible music. Okay, I will say
It's-
one other thing in from your side of the pond, which I've said that twice now, and I'm gonna try to get a third your side of the pond in before we wrap this
there you
up.
go.
I don't know if Conjurer is gonna have a new album out next year. I know they're working on new stuff.
Hmm.
Um, we had those delightful folks over here as direct support on our headlining tour earlier this year, and just absolutely adore them.
Yeah.
Phenomenal band. And I know they're also, I don't know if they're doing more Curse These Metal Hands or if they're just doing some shows with that. Um, but they're staying busy, and everyone, regardless of what country you're in, should support everything that all four of those cats do because they're
Yeah.
lovely and they're brilliant, and you should do it because I said so.
No, I've absolutely loved Conjurer. It's like if I talk to people here, they're like, "Will you shut up about Conjurer, man?" It's no, I won't, because I loved that first record. The second record from I think last year now was absolutely fantastic. Like you say, I know they're working on stuff. And the Curse These Metal Hands one, actually, that that original record they did is one of my favorite albums of like the last 10 years.
Nice.
It's because it's just that kind of happiness. Like it's
Yeah.
got that really positive energy. And I remember when I was living in my old place in Wales, driving back there from work one weekend, and or driving back or driving to, either way, it was like the sun was coming up. And I came kind of crested this hill as like that big lift in high spirits comes in. And it was just like, like you say, like it was one of the greatest experiences and they're an absolutely phenomenal live band. I saw them at Arctangent this year,
Yeah.
and they did play a new song. Um,
Nice.
so we think there's new stuff, like they've done stuff, but obviously they've also been quite busy with Conjurer, which is fair enough.
Yeah. I like I so we were just in the UK a few weeks ago, and I stayed with Brady and his lovely wife for a couple days, and I feel like Brady might have told me if they were writing new stuff, but I was so jet lagged at that point that I was just like, yeah, that's fine. Uh-huh. That's good. What? Yeah. Food? Can we eat food?
Yeah,
But I'm
no,
sure whenever it comes out, it will be top notch because everything that all four of those cats touches is top notch.
yeah, they're an absolutely phenomenal bunch. So last but not least, and it's something you mentioned, kind of alluded to before, is 2024 plans. Well, for yourself, obviously for Khemmis, but also Glacial Tomb as well. You mentioned the records coming out.
Yeah.
What can you tell us? What's in the works for 2024 for yourself?
Yeah. So Chemists, we have, I mean, we started writing. Well, let me phrase that. I started writing. I assume the other guys are too, but I've started writing in the last like 2 or so months for a new record. It generally takes me like a year and a half or so after we put an album out to sort of like start to like get recharged because recording a Chemist album takes it out of all of us in a way, like in a good way, because we're getting, we're working through all of the trauma that's in the lyrics and is in the music. But like at the end of it, you're just like, okay, I can't go back to that headspace for a little while. I gotta let that rest. But once that starts to feel good again, the ideas just start flowing. And I mean, I've been writing stuff 2, 3, sometimes 4 days a week at this point. I've got probably 30 riffs already in various stages of gestation. Um, and we will get together now that we no longer all live in Denver. What we'll do is a couple times next year, we're really excited about this. We'll get to do the whole like get a cabin in the woods, set up the gear, set up a computer to record and just jam for, a long weekend, 3, 4 days, and then take a few weeks, couple months, everybody listens back to it. We make notes, we edit it, and we do it again a couple times. Um, so the hope is to finish writing an album and maybe even record it next year. It won't come out until the beginning of 2025, but that's the optimistic hope. Of course, life gets in the way, you know, do what you
Yeah,
can,
best
but
laid
that's
plans.
exactly. We will also be, even though the album cycle is we're towards the end of it, especially for like American touring. We've done 3 big tours in the last like 18 months between the Mastodon and Opeth tour, the Trivium tour, and then doing the headlining tour this spring. So North America, we feel like is pretty tapped out for right now, but we are coming back over to Europe for a few weeks in the summer. A few of those festivals have already been announced. There'll be some more that get announced in the next couple of weeks, and then some headlining dates in between there. Um, and then I we really want to get to like Australia and Japan. A funny story about this. So we played in Manchester at Damnation Festival a few weeks ago,
Yeah,
and we're hanging out in the green room afterwards. There's a knock at the door, and God, I'm bad with names today. The main cat inside, the guy that plays bass, is married to Dr. McCannibal. I can't think of his name. He
I
comes
know who you
by to say
mean. Yeah,
hi, and like we're all fans, but Phil's a huge fan, and it's such a cool moment that he's there, and he's like, you guys should really come to Japan. And Phil goes, yeah, we've been trying to get over there. And he goes, oh, well, who have you been talking to? And Phil goes, oh, nobody. We've just been thinking about it and saying to ourselves, we should really go play in Japan. And he laughs. He goes, you generally have to ask somebody about it, but you could try that. Maybe just come play with us instead. And we're like, yeah, dude, we'll go play with Psy. So who knows? Maybe you'll see Chemist and Psy doing some stuff in Japan next year. That would be that's absolutely just like me trying to manifest it into existence. There are no plans, but cross your fingers, cross your toes. That'd be cool.
yeah, that'd be a
Um,
big kind of almost bucket list item, especially for him.
oh yeah, yeah. And then and then you can see me and Dave on the road with Glacial Tomb. I don't. There'll be the whole press release cycle and stuff will start up probably in I don't know January, February. We finished the album a few months ago. I produced and engineered it, and then Arthur Rizek mixed and mastered it. He's done everything from Blood Incantation to Creator to Cavaliera Conspiracy. Arthur's been a homie for years, so he made the album sound big and nasty. Um, there'll be an announcement in the next couple of weeks about the label that's putting that out. I can't say anything about it, but it is cool and we're very excited. And then there'll be a lot of touring. We're planning to put the work in next year. So if you don't see me with Khemmis, come see me with Glacial Tomb. I'll be out there.
Big plans.
Yeah, gotta stay busy.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having my friend. Take care.
Well, again, thank you so much for joining me this evening. So I'm joined by, is it Yegor of Fires in the Distance, an incredible kind of melodic, doomy death kind of metal band, who released a phenomenal album this year. So yeah, first of all, first question, how are you doing?
Doing very well. It's Thanksgiving here today in the US. So
It is.
a
Happy
bunch of
Thanksgiving.
food. Thank you. Thank you. Eating a bunch of food, but yeah, man, I appreciate the kind words. It's definitely been a hell of a year. So
Yeah, I mean, because I remember really enjoying the last one,
mhm.
and being really happy when the new one got announced. And then I was just chatting to Will at Prosthetic Records about it, and he said, this has been such a good year, like in the US, and I'd seen it had been a pretty good year for you over here as well. But to hear it getting about, to kind of see it getting so much love, obviously in the US for you guys as well, I felt really good. It felt like you were really getting what you deserve for it.
Yeah, honestly, it's a surprise to me. I didn't expect the reception to be quite so warm, but I welcome it. I'm very, very grateful that people have been enjoying the follow-up to our debut. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, great record. So it's nice to hear people getting into it. What we're here to sort of talk about initially, as I mentioned, is with it being the end of the year, everyone gets into the mindset of, oh, what was the best thing that came out this year? I kind of like to take a slightly different tack on it and talk about favorites, like so much, so to put it to yourself, what's been your favorite record that's come out in 2023?
there's a couple. How many can I mention?
If you've
And
got a couple, let's hear about it. It's always nice to have that choice, right?
yeah, I'll stick to four.
Okay, cool.
There's a fair number. Two of which are label mates. First and foremost, I have to mention Astralborne. I've worked with them on. I did a guest solo for their new record, but those guys are unbelievable melodic death metal, like just with folk influences, but just incredible stuff. I would highly recommend checking out Astralborne's record. And then to follow up on that, another prosthetic band, Four Token. Also a massive release this year. I feel like Prosthetic definitely dropped some huge, huge albums. Those particularly being my favorites from the label. Outside of the label, and this is one of my biggest influences going back to like 2001. Calma, their self-titled record came out this year, which really took me by surprise. I feel like they went back to a sound similar to 12 gauge, which is my one of my favorite Calma records. I mean, I love all the old ones too, but 12 gauge, it was just it was just incredible. And they I feel like they really went back to that particular sound, and it was amazing. And the last one I have to mention, because I listen to, like, outside of melodic death metal, I listen to a lot of like dissonant stuff, like Ulcerate, things like that. There's this band called Bearing Teeth. I'm not sure how long ago. I think it was recent, but they put out an album called I don't. I hope I'm remembering correctly, but it's called The Path Narrows or something like that. And astonishing stuff. Like really unique take on death metal and dissonant death metal. So those have been in my regular rotation for sure.
Nice. It's interesting that like you say, there's such
you know, because like dissonant stuff can be really difficult to get right, you know.
It depends. You got to find the right band.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I think it's, you know, the bands are the ones doing it, you know, who are doing it
Yeah.
right. But it's as a genre, like, it can be tricky because you might just say, oh, we'll just play stuff that doesn't match. That's dissonant. It's like, well, not
Well,
really, you know.
see, when I think of
There's an
dissonance,
art to it.
I think of bands like Ulcerate, and those guys plan everything out to a T, like even more than any tech band that I know. Like, so there's definitely an art form to what they do. It's not just random punk death metal.
No, absolutely. That's what I mean. Like, it's so well thought out. It's so considered.
Hmm.
It's an area for me that kind of I don't explore a lot because, like I say, I think I find it, you know, quite. I have been the right kind of mindset, but when it does click, not in death metal, but a dissonant black metal record I loved a couple of years back was the Fantifaxath record
Yes, yes, yes.
because like I listened to it and went, I don't get it, but I love it.
Yes.
So some incredible record picks there. I really liked the Astralborne one as well. And I haven't spent enough time with Four Token, but like you say, I think Prosthetic have done a phenomenal job this year of just like finding some incredible bands and
Yeah,
releasing some top
it's been a
tier. Yeah,
big year for melodic death metal releases on that label for sure.
absolutely. And Calma is one that actually I'm not familiar with, you know.
Oh,
It's a name that I've seen floating around, but I haven't managed to check out yet. So on that recommendation, I think it's definitely something I need to hear.
for sure. For sure. I would check out the Black Waltz 12 gauge. Um, can check out, I mean, they have a massive discography, but those are some of my favorites. I grew up listening to the Black Waltz. They're a Finnish melodic death metal band that is very organic sounding. They're not overproduced. They're just raw in a good way, and it's phenomenal stuff.
Hmm. Finns do make some really good melodeath, to be fair. So I think you're onto a winner there. Okay, amazing. So moving on then, what I wanted to talk to you about next is bands that or a band or a couple of bands that you think either are gonna have an absolutely massive 2024, you know, maybe they've just started getting, you know, getting that kind of getting to that cusp, or they're bands that you think people like not enough people listen to, you know, they should be way bigger than they are.
I think an Abstract Illusion for sure. I'm a huge fan of that band. I They have a massive following as it is, but I feel like they deserve a lot more. Um, I remember listening to I forget the name of the album. It's a blue one, but years before Fires even started, I showed my bandmates some of the songs off of I believe it was their first album, and it's funny enough we were attempting to like get some shows going with them in the UK and Europe, but so far it's a work in progress. But it's so cool, just listening to those guys get better and better, and I hope they keep getting bigger and bigger for sure. It's another melodic death metal band.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I get that is a name I know. And like you say, I think like the following they've got is not inconsequential. It's a decent amount, but like you say, sometimes there are bands where you're like, you should always have more.
Yeah,
Like you're
yeah,
so
no,
good.
it's unbelievably talented.
Amazing. Okay. That's so an abstract illusion pick for the band tip for Big Things 2024. So absolutely one to check out for listeners. Last but not least, I want to talk about yourself and Fires in the Distance. So we mentioned already you put out your second record this year on Prosthetic, and that's done exceptionally well. Looking ahead, for 2024, what can you talk to us about? What can you tell us about Fire's plans?
Well, right now, I'm in writing mode. So we had a tour in October with Dawn of Ouroboros. Uh, we've been home for about a month now, and I'm starting to get back into like the creative flow here. Air Not Meant for Us has been out for under a year, but that record's been written for close to 3 years now.
Wow.
So it's just, it's about time I get going on something new. I have one song written already for the third one, and I'm just gonna try to ride that out. For what I can say for 2024, there's a couple of things in the works that I can't mention. The one thing that I can mention is that most likely we'll be playing, I believe it's UK Desert Fest in May. We're trying to work around some other tour dates around that particular day, so we're not just flying out for a weekend.
Sure.
So the adjacent days are something that we're currently working out. There's possibly something for later in the year as well, but in the interim, I'm just writing right now. I'm just trying to focus on getting the third record going. So
Nice. Okay. So some big plans afoot as well then. Like I didn't necessarily, I think it always surprises me when, when someone like yourself says, oh, well, the record's like, less than a year, but I wrote it 3 years ago. And it's always, even though it does happen regularly because of just the time taken to record. And now obviously the delays in like vinyl production and stuff like that.
that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
That's the big kicker, isn't it? And I'm still surprised every time. I'm like, wow, 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, man. We've been sitting on this album for a long time. It's the toughest thing having new music and you just can't put it out, and you got to wait a year for vinyl to be ready. So
Yeah, but hey, it's out. That's the main thing. And like you say, you can move and like give it the air it deserves, if you like. Pardon the pun. And obviously, it'll be really fucking cool if you can make it over here.
yeah,
For
that's the
especially
plan.
for dates around it.
That's the plan.
Yeah, and then obviously excited for whatever the future holds, and especially for LP3 after the first two have been this good.
Yeah, it's well on its way right now. So hopefully the
Amazing.
creative flow stays with me. Sometimes you don't know when that writer's block's gonna hit. So
Yeah, no, I know the feeling when I'm obviously not as a music writer, but just as a writer about music. There are times when I'm just sat there and it's like there's nothing, nothing's coming,
and you can't force it. You know what I mean? Because that's when you start writing filler, and I don't believe in that. So
Yeah, I tried it once, read back what I'd written and deleted it, and went, "No, we're coming back to this."
yeah. Like I said, we're fully in writing mode right now. I got one in the pocket, and I'm gonna ride out the creativity wave for as long as I can. We got a really good team. We're gonna be going back, obviously, with the same producer as on Echoes and Air as well. Dave Kaminsky at Studio Wormwood in North Carolina. I've worked with him on over 6 albums so far already. Fires included and other stuff. And one thing that we were very lucky to have on Air Not Meant for Us is that I had the opportunity to work with Randy Slaw, who is a producer out of Salt Lake, and he's worked on Devin Townsend records, Tesseract, stuff like that. He has his own band, White Moth, Black Butterfly, which is incredible. He's an unbelievable composer. He was the one actually responsible for recording all of the live cellos, violins, and violas on Air Not Meant for Us. So, and he helped
Amazing.
me write a decent portion of the album as well. So we have that solid team going forward. I'm very confident. So
Yeah, love to hear it. Okay, well, thank you again so much for your time. Have a great Thanksgiving.
all right, well, thank you.
Well, thank you again for taking the time. So I'm joined by Nathan from the incredible Burner, the death metal hardcore hybrid from London. How are you doing this evening?
Yo, I'm good, man. Yeah, all good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to hear it. So, reason we're doing this, as you know, is when it comes to the end of the year, everyone, the industry seemingly all of a sudden goes, right, what was the best thing from this year? What's the number one album? What's better than everything else? wanted to kind of put a different spin on it and just talk about. I feel like it's better to talk about favorites. Like everyone's taste is a little bit different. So to jump straight in, what's been your favorite record that came out in 2023?
So, man, it's a difficult question every year, isn't it? But this year it was a toss up between two or three. I had to go with the record that I've just literally been listening to non-stop since it came out, which is, of course, the new Die and Wish record, Symptoms of Survival, because
My man,
it's unreal. It's a banger. I knew I was going to like it when the singles came out. I didn't actually, it took me a while. They released one or two singles and I hadn't heard them. Usually I kind of try to avoid singles, but I think they released a third one in the end, and then I just got into those three, and that was it. I knew it was probably going to be my album of the year. Some tough contenders, but I don't know, man. Everything about that record, the songwriting's just great. The production is amazing. It's it's like there's basically nothing I dislike about it.
yeah, it's like they've taken everything that worked really well about Fragments and then gone, hey, let's do all of that and make it better and do this.
Yeah, it's like it's more mature, but not in a way it's not in a boring way. They're not any less heavier, they're not any less intense. You're right, they've just built on that on the previous record, in just a really nice way. There's nothing, super different on there. They've just kind of taken that formula and just gone further with it. And yeah, I'm down for that. It's so good, man.
There's some incredible stuff on here. To make it an even harder question then, what's your current favorite song on it?
I would say I'm really bad with song names. There's one, I think it's called Death to Your Grave, or Path to Your Grave, isn't it?
Yeah.
Path to Your Grave. Which maybe is not. I'm usually one I like the heaviest, fastest, most intense record song on a record, but that's kind of got a bit of everything in it. But there's this little motif that they have kind of fairly near the start, and I think there's a rhythm in the chorus, which is kind of nothing that jumps out at you, but then that kind of the end of the song, they kind of they drop that back and they change the rhythm up and change the tempo up a little bit, and it's just like it's so hard hitting. That's one of those moments where the production really shines, and like everything is just so punchy on it. But I don't know, man. Every song, I love the last song, which I think was one of the singles, Lost in the Fall. The chorus is just it's so good. It's so catchy. It's got that like old school Kill Switch thing going on that I absolutely love. If any band is ripping off Kill Switch, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so catchy. It's got those moments, but then it's super heavy as well. It does everything I want an album to do.
Yeah, I like legitimately Lost in the Fall is one of my favorite songs of this year.
Yeah, definitely.
Because every time that chorus hits, like every single time, I'm just like,
when
no,
it comes
this
back,
is everything I could want from it.
yeah, when they bring it back after the kind of that clean piano section at the end, it's so epic, man.
And I love that there's like a clean piano section in it as well for something that something they've definitely never done before. And then Path to Your Grave is great. I love the callback too because it's like Fragments Part 2. It's the callback with the was it I Would Bury You If I Could line at the end.
I've never really noticed that, but now you mention it, yeah.
Well,
I love stuff like that. I love all that noticeable stuff where you listen. I mean, I've listened to that record maybe every day since it came out, and I haven't noticed that. But there's so many albums like that where 6 or 7 years down the line, I'll pick out something, a clever thing that they've done, and it's like, that's what I love about just revisiting albums and stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, I remember them saying, and I was lucky enough to interview Emma as well, and she did confirm, like, so it is part 2 for the song, like the title track from the debut. It was deliberately written as like a part 2, but written from this now, like this kind of like place where she's grown to.
Right.
There's like this, looking back on it. So it's really interesting to hear that, to have that conceptual through line on the record. And then I love Paved in Sorrow. It's an absolutely incredible record.
Yeah, there's like, I think it gets halfway through the second half of the album. I think it's from like Tongues of Lead onwards, where like everything flows so well. It's just like it's until there's a gap before the last song, but until that point, it just feels like one long song, which is something I like in the Burner stuff as well. We spend so much time like piecing together, the album or the EP. Just the track order is, in my view, it's one of the most important parts of writing an album or writing a record. It's kind of a make or break moment, and to have that kind of second half of the album just all flow effortlessly, it makes such a huge difference, because it's banger after banger, but you don't feel like it's not letting up, but you don't want it to either. You just want it to keep sort of moving on and progressing, which is exactly what this record does. It does it really well.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, so it's way up there on my album of the year list as well. It's not my top one. But like it's within, I think it's within like my top 2 or 3 easily.
Yeah.
It
was I had a toss up for my top 3 as well. It's been, I mean, every year I feel like it's not going to be as good of a year as last year, but every year I do my list kind of around this time, and all of a sudden I've got 15, 16 albums on the list, and I'm like, oh, okay, damn, yeah, it's been a good year. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do this, like I start, I keep a track of like a sheet of everything I've listened to by like try and track genre, when it came out, so I remember stuff, because that's quite nice as well, as like when you revisit stuff and you're like, oh, this came out, like the Zulu record that came out back in February, which is another one right at the top of my list.
That's where, like, because the Dying Wish record came out, I think it was this month or last month, wasn't it?
It was this month,
November
the 3rd. Yeah.
And I'm always reluctant to put an album so late in the year as my album of the year, because I feel like, well, it's just the one that I'm listening to right now, and it is the one I'm listening to right now, one of a few. But I don't know, I just feel like it's got everything I look for, so I felt I just had to do it. I had to put it up there.
It's well deserved, I think, with this record. I could talk about Dying Wish for far too long. So we'll move on to the next bit, which is a band that, so coming into 2024, there's always going to be a band that is hopefully poised for like a big breakout year. So either a pick for that, or a band that you really think deserves way more love than they're getting at the moment.
All right, so I think the band I've picked probably does cover both of those bases, although I have absolutely no idea what their plans are for next year, so who knows. But this was another one of my contenders for record of the year, this band. And it's a band called Fear and Filth, who are not very well known at all, as far as I can tell. Their tracks on Spotify have got 2,000-3,000 listens each, and believe me, I'm not the kind of person who likes stuff just because no one knows it. I couldn't care less. It's just, I think Finn, our bassist, I think he chucked it in a group chat a couple of months ago, and it's another record that I just haven't been able to put down. They put out an album this year called Blessed Be, and it's just super. It's insanely intense, and it's so heavy. It's the whole record just goes hard the whole way through. They're kind of like they call themselves a hardcore band. I don't really hear much hardcore in their music. They're kind of the HM2 stuff, grindy. They're like, I don't know, D-beat, power violence, old school death metal crossover, all of that stuff all rolled into one. They're a bit like they've got bits of End and Nails, Trap Them, Gate Creeper, those kind of bands.
Oh man, yeah.
It's so good. They do it so well. I mean, there are lots of bands like that, and we do that a little bit at times as well. We try and kind of take bits of that kind of music, but there are a lot of bands that kind of, I don't know, maybe they're not doing anything particularly new, and maybe Fear and Filth aren't doing anything particularly new, but what they are doing, they're doing it very, very well. And I'm kind of baffled as to how more people aren't listening to them. They're one of those bands where I listened to the record and thought, oh, it's probably a band that I should have heard of by now. And then I saw the Spotify plays and Instagram followers and all that stuff. Not that that really matters, but it just surprised me, man, because the record is so well produced. It sounds massive. The HM2 stuff is, you can hear what the guitars are doing. They've just got some insanely catchy riffs, like amazing songwriting. And yeah, I've no idea what they've got planned for next year, but I hope it's something big, because I think people need to listen to them. I think they deserve to have more recognition than they currently have. I don't think they've been around too long, maybe only a few years, but yeah, I urge everyone to check their record out this year. It's seriously good.
It's Fear and Filth.
Fear and Filth, yeah.
Yeah, I know, like you said, this doesn't matter a lot, but like 95 monthly listeners, like that's
Yeah, exactly.
From
the
what
album
you've
is
said,
so
that
good.
sounds like it should be higher. I found
think
that
so.
record. That's definitely going to get checked out over the weekend. I'm excited by the sound of that.
It's great, man. It's got it doesn't, it does that kind of grindy HM2 thing, but it goes to a few different places throughout the album as well. It does some really cool stuff. The production on it is massive as well. I don't know. I've no idea who produced it, to be honest. I wish I did, but yeah, that band are well worth checking out.
Nice. Okay. Well, in that case, we'll talk last of all about your plans for 2024. Well, obviously, first of all, you released a record this year, your debut record, just a year after you released an EP, both of which have done incredibly well, both of which are incredibly good.
Thank you.
And they've had a lot of love from like my friends. I've seen a lot of love from in the press, which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, in terms of what you can talk about, what's the future looking like for Burner at the moment? What's 2024 holding?
It's there's a few bits we can't talk about. There's a few bits we can. We've got a few cool shows booked. There's nothing. We're kind of trying to let the record do its thing for a little bit. So, as you said, we released the album this year, which has been unbelievable. It was amazing to finally get it out, and the response has been just so insanely positive, way more so than we could have ever hoped for. So we've been so thankful to everyone who's listened, come to shows, everything. It's just been it's blown our minds, to be honest. But yeah, we wanted to release that album fairly soon after the EP. We didn't want to kind of be one of those bands that puts an EP out and then nothing really happens for a few years, play a couple of shows here and there. So actually some of the tunes, or in fact probably most of the tunes on the album, were already well in the works before the EP even was properly released. We wanted to just get a decent load of music out there so that we can do something with it. And obviously this year we have managed to do that. It's been amazing. We got over to Scotland for some shows and Ireland for some shows, 2 amazing experiences to go as far away from home as we've been before and have like unbelievable reception from everyone there. So really, we just want to build on that next year. We want to, let the record do its thing a bit more. We want to do the songs justice. We don't want to forget about it too soon. Whilst the songs are old to us now, obviously, we keep having to remind ourselves it only came out like 5 months ago, whatever it was. It's still new in people's minds. There's so many places we want to go and play these songs to people. There's places we know people want us to come and play. So we just want to get out there and play as many sick shows as possible. We want to play with as many sick bands as we can. We've played with some unbelievable bands this year who we've made some really great friends with. And we just want to carry that forward, just build on that really. In terms of new music, maybe we'll look at writing again next year, but at the moment we're kind of we're taking it easy, just enjoying the music that we've put out, trying to do it justice. We're so proud of it. We think it's good enough for us to really, roll with that ball. And yeah, so nothing huge that I can announce. We have obviously got Noizze Fest in April, I believe.
April 27th, yeah.
Which will be so nice. We were, as I said, we managed to get over to Scotland and Ireland this year. We were really hoping to get a show booked in Wales as well, so we could complete the UK or whatever. But April's fine. We'll count it in the list.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you play that.
Yeah, it should be good, man. I've heard good things about Cardiff, so we've played some banging shows this year in some amazing cities, but people tell us Cardiff's good, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, no pressure on us to have them show up for it.
yeah, good point.
Well, that's everything. So thank you very much again for joining me this evening.
No worries. Cheers for having me.